Good morning, you guys. It is time for us to do another pull apart video. And I am going to do this one mostly because I'm really curious about it. I actually can sort of rotate this a little bit. Maybe. I don't want to have my thingamabob fall off. But so when I first saw this painting, I got this painting this weekend. When I first saw it, it looked so like it had sort of like a late 60s kind of vibe, you know. And then I was thinking about it later. I mean, you know, I bought it anyway, but because I like it and I like watercolors, and you know that. But I thought about it later. You know, I have this other painting, which I'll just kind of stick under here. This is from the 1910s, probably. Maybe the 20s. It's a gouache, and it has sort of an Art Deco vibe, and it has the same color scheme. And I started thinking about a book that I've been reading, which is by Haywood Sumner. And I don't know if you guys know who that is, but he was a painter. He did this type of fresco that's not really a fresco, it's a carving instead. And he also did some weaving and tapestries and paintings. But the book that I'm reading is this memoir of his about where he was living in Hampshire, called The Book of Gourley, and it's about his house called Cuckoo Hill. But anyway, he was an arts and crafts artist who worked with William Morris and all that kind of stuff. He's English. So anyway, this kind of color scheme, and it makes sense a little bit if it is 60s, 70s versus, you know, 1910s, 1920s. You know, it could be either one. I think it's more likely to be 60s, but you know, you never know. And anyway, I wanted to take it apart. But yeah, so that there was sort of resurgence in that kind of Art Nouveau, arts and crafts style in the 70s, 60s, and 70s. I cheated a little bit. I took some of, I guess I should have done part of this before we went together, but part of the fun is getting into these things. And, you know, I was actually joking. I don't know if you can see me, but I was thinking to myself, have I ever done one of these pull-apart videos when I'm not wearing a clickety-clackety wooden bracelet? So I did kind of go in here a little bit to see what what tool I would need. Let me just, these are these, they don't, well, can you see what I'm doing? Yes, you can. Sorry, I just wanted to look up. These are not very, you know, they're like these little arrowy things. And so you don't bend them back like some, you just kind of take them out. And, you know, this does have a, you know, sort of mid to late 20th century oak frame here. You know, it's kind of hard to date some of these sometimes because, I mean, you just kind of think about, you know, even like today, I am wearing a vintage 1970s Hermes scarf. And, you know, it's 2025, so who knows? You can't always date things based on their context. I'm also wearing a 1970s watch. Okay. But anyway, that's sort of, I think this Haywood Sumner seems like an interesting guy. He kind of left William Morris because he thought they were too snobby. And one of the things he did was started making mass-produced posters to put in hospitals and schools because he felt like, but he also, you know, just like, you know, his work at William Morris, he designed wallpaper and stuff. I was thinking about that again recently, that I might take some of my paintings and turn them into wallpaper. Anyway, let's get into this guy. And I can tell already. See, yeah, I mean, these little guys are galvanized steel. Hot metal, as my dad used to say, sort of, who knows what the metal is. And that's another thing we've kind of started doing now that was not always, but it's, you know, we use D-rings now instead of these screws. And I'll tell you, I have found that putting the screws in sometimes splits the frame. A.W. Foster. Now see, this is what's interesting. That mode of writing. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? Yeah, I guess we'll get it a little closer. That kind of stylized. And look, they did the first one on the back. This is an old person's handwriting. This is an old person's handwriting, and I say that with love. I mean, it's, you know, people are not taught properly anymore. Now there's a little bit of tape on here, and there's a little bit of yellowing, probably again, like we saw the other day. There's not proper, look really close, really carefully with that guy, because, you know, this is good paper, older paper. Oh yeah, this is not new. This paper is rather thin. Yeah, I mean, this is something, I guess I could get one of these. You can see sometimes this older paper is not as heavy. The paper I use now is like 140 pounds, right? But I love that they did a drawing on the back. But, you know, that's somebody who's conserving resources. Look, there's a thumbtack print here. They had this tacked up to work on it. It's interesting. So I'm just going to have to figure out who this person is. But I was thinking, but I don't have it accessible really. There's another painting that I have from the 1940s that is on this same kind of lighter weight paper. And, you know, it might be, you know, I was talking about this last night actually, that, you know, my dad grew up during the Depression, and, you know, resources are precious, and so you do with them what you can. But it's in great shape. I mean, altogether, this is just, you know, discoloration from the mat. But this, you know, you look at this orange and your first thought is 70s, 70s, 70s. But not necessarily. Not necessarily, because remember, this one's from the 1910s. And the reason, right, I was thinking about Haywood Sumner because of his, a couple of his paintings kind of have this color theme. But anyway, this is a nice painting, and we'll get it reframed and safely back out of the elements so that nothing terrible happens to it. So anyway, happy Monday. Enjoy your week, you guys. Bye-bye.